Welcome to Bridging Cultures, a first generation experience. This is the relaunch of the podcast. I originally started this around 2023, but due to life, we had to put it on pause for a little bit. But now more than ever, I feel that it is important for our first generation stories to be heard. I'm excited to introduce our first guest, Valeria Herrera.
Yes.
Valeria is a registered nurse. She is a dreamer and she's a fitness enthusiast. Valeria, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. I'm so excited to hear about it. I'm excited for the audience to hear as well. Welcome. So tell us about Valeria.
Well, I am Valeria. I go by Valerie sometimes because it's easier for the non-Spanish speakers. I'm 27 years old. I am a pediatric registered nurse, and I also do mobile IV nursing on the side, and some content creation here and there.
Nice. You wear many hats. How long have you been in Texas for?
I have been in Texas since I was 2 years old, so 25 years.
25 years. So this is all you
Home.
know. What was your childhood like?
Grew up an only child for about 8 years. And then I had 2 younger brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. But I grew up in a very small family for the most part because most of my family is in Mexico on both my mom and my dad's side. So a very, very small family. Like only my siblings and my parents were my family to me. And I grew up in South Austin, which is, I feel like, primarily Hispanic. So I had a lot of friends who were Hispanic and spoke Spanish. So I was very immersed in Mexican culture, but still lived in the United States. I'd say my childhood is great, honestly. I don't think I ever lacked anything. I do remember my parents came here and I was little. I don't remember what happened when I was little, but when I started growing up, I remember that like I never wanted something and didn't have it. Like my family dynamic was very traditional Mexican. My mom was the mom, stay-at-home mom. My dad would work and provide for the family. Very humble, but never had anything that I wanted and didn't have. Like I grew up with all the toys. I grew up very spoiled because I was very good at school. So that was my parents' way of praising that I was smart.
Plus, you were the only child for what, 8 years?
Yeah, 8 years.
Nice. So you were loved Mexicanly, basically.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's what the kids say these days.
Yeah, because my friends tell me this all the time, but I like struggle to say I love you to them. And it's just because that wasn't something that I heard a lot when I was young. Like I knew my parents loved me and they did everything that I needed. And I had a family, I had a roof, I had food, I had like everything that I could need, but they were not ones to give physical affection or like words of affirmation. So I never heard the words like I'm proud of you or I love you. And that I think is also a lot of Latinos family dynamics, unfortunately.
Where do you think that comes from?
Maybe how they were raised. I guess like they were raised with like tough love. And like I think my love language now is like acts of service because I appreciate, like, I show people I love them by doing things for them just because that's how I was raised. Like, I never missed a meal because my mom always cooked for me. And yeah, maybe she never directly told me I love you besides like special occasions, but I'm like, I can have dinner for you, the whole apartment clean, and you'll know I love you. But I may not be able to tell you all the time.
I think this generation is getting better at breaking that curse, if you will. For example, I think as we get older, we realize that the struggle that most of our parents had,
Hmm.
because if you think about it, our parents wouldn't have left their hometown, their countries, if they didn't have the need to, right? Because who in their right mind is going to leave, who in their right mind is going to leave what they know, their community, their family?
Hmm.
I mean, nobody's really going to do that unless you
There's like,
absolutely need to. And I think as we learn our parents and our family's stories, we realize that, wow, you had it bad growing up.
hmm
And everyone talks about tough love. But again, it's hard to demonstrate something when it wasn't demonstrated to you. But I think a lot of us, now that we're getting older, we're able to give our parents grace
hmm
and be like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. Let me be the example and say, hey, I love you, or how are you? I'm thinking of you,
Mhm.
text message or what have you. I think a lot of the audience can
Relate.
relate to that. So we talked about you being a registered nurse, you doing great in school. When you got to high school, what was that like?
Well, high school was kind of a turning point for me. I loved high school because I was very involved. I was involved in like all the groups. I did volleyball for 2 years and then I did cheerleading for my junior and sophomore year. But high school is when my mom got sick. I lost my mom to cancer my junior year of high school, and that completely changed my life. I think it formed me into the person that I am now because, like I said, I had everything. Like, I can't think back and say that I didn't like have the most perfect childhood I could have had because my parents were together. I had siblings, like I had friends. I did good in school. I was allowed to like hang out with my friends. And yes, there were certain boundaries. Like you're not allowed to sleep over at another friend's house because parents don't trust people. But like I think I had quite literally a perfect childhood. Like my parents were great. And then my mom passed away. And that is kind of the turn of my life because that's when I actually also discovered that the way DACA was going to affect me long term because junior year is when you start applying to colleges and you start looking at financial aid. And thankfully my mom filled out my initial DACA application before she passed away, and like that was like one of the main things she was focused on. I like vaguely remember conversations about it cuz I didn't know what it was. I didn't necessarily I don't think I fully understood that I wasn't from here until high school. Like, what do you mean? We've been here my whole life. Like, how am I different than any of my friends? But that's the year that we started doing financial aid. And I was like, crap, like, I know I want to be a nurse, but I may not be able to be a nurse. And I also didn't know like how the renewal worked. Like, was I going to be able to work even if I did finish school? Like, it was a lot of uncertainty towards the end of high school, unfortunately.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't know that your mom
Thank
passed
you.
away to cancer. You talk about you already knew that you wanted to be a nurse.
Hmm.
Do you attribute that to being in the hospital with your mom, taking her doctor's appointments, things like that? Or what made you want to pursue nursing?
A little bit of that had influence. I think originally I wanted to be a doctor because I know that, like, I feel like a lot of Hispanic families, like, want you to be a lawyer, a doctor, like, be an engineer, those things that are, like, kind of, like, considered the greater careers, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And then in high school, I actually got to be part of a CNA program, and I liked the patient care part of it. Like, I was like, "Oh, we get to hang out with the patients," and, like, I never saw the doctors at that point. I was like, "Well, maybe they're not as involved as I thought they were." And then my senior year, I actually got to do an EMT program, and I almost went through with that. I took my board licensing exam, so I was EMT certified for a little bit, but I never went into the Texas part of it. So I never got to do that, but I was like, I think I kind of like being hands-on and all the things that they get to do. So when my mom was in the hospital, I got to experience some very great nurses and some very not great nurses. So I think a part of that kind of sparked an interest in me. Like, I loved how some of them connected with her. Some of them, like, really went out of their way to make sure she was okay, and some of them were just, like, bare minimum nurses, and I think that stood out to me. So, I kinda took all of those, combined them, and I was like, "What is it that I actually wanna do?" And then UT nursing sparked my interest, and I got in, but financial aid was the issue. So, I ended up going to Concordia instead.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue when it comes to being a DACA recipient.
Mhm.
Can you think of any interactions with doctors, nurses that looked like you?
I mean, I don't really remember a lot of the nurses speaking Spanish. I think that was one thing that really stood out to me is that I felt like I couldn't leave that hospital room because I was my mom's translator. And to this day, I schedule all my dad's doctor's appointments on the days that I'm off of work because I'll tell you, none of them pull out a translator. None of them. They like just try to like do choppy Spanish. And some of them I still like them, even though they do that. Like my dad's PA right now is amazing and I love her and she like does the choppy Spanish and she like has me help her. But I know that like there's been situations in which I take my dad and nobody pulls out an interpreter. And I'm like, that's illegal.
it just it just goes to show how representation, it builds a sense of trust, it builds a sense of community. People don't go into healthcare because they want to be mean or they're pressed for time. Unfortunately, that's how it's set up. You have to document everything, and it leaves very little time for patient interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So pulling out a translator or using the language line that we some places have, that's an extra step on top of
The things you
an
already have to do.
already busy doctor's visit or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's no excuse. Those are just things that go into play with that.
Right.
And it's important. I'm sure you were advocating since you were young, interpreting, reading forms, filling out forms.
Yeah. All those packets that they would give you on the first day of school for like your lunch, your free and reduced lunch. I'm like, I don't know what any of this means, but there's things that we have to do.
These are the struggles of first generation students or what have you, filling out your own forms and just telling your parents, sign here, and they trust that you know what
You're
you're
filling it
doing.
out.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well, he goes to school, he speaks English, he knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Our classmates, a lot of them didn't have to figure that stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of them didn't have to schedule their own doctor's appointments.
I mean, I can see
Usually
the
their mom scheduled their stuff,
I
for
can
the
see the
most part.
contrast just between me and my brothers. I started filling out forms when I was like 12, and I can make my own doctor's appointments. I can make anyone's doctor's appointments at this point. Like, I know all of their information by heart. But like, they are now 2021, and they couldn't tell me what their social security number is.
Yeah.
They couldn't tell me my dad's email because they've never had to do it because I've been there. So I was the one that like took over that part, and they never had to because I was always there, you know?
And that's also speaks to the kind of like the responsibilities that you, first of all, being a woman, a female,
Mhm.
being the oldest daughter,
Mhm.
I feel like oldest daughters take on such a responsibility.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that you're not asked permission. It's just one of those things like you have to do, right?
Mhm. And I think that was heightened also because we lost my mom. So it's not like I kind of had to step into that role and make sure that they were getting taken care of in a way that my dad didn't know because he'd never done it. Like my mom was in charge of all the appointments, taking them to school, doing all the finances. Like my dad was the provider. So I had to step into that role not even knowing what to do because I was 17. The trauma of the eldest daughter.
My sister, I've always said she's like my second mother.
Mhm.
If I'm in a pickle or in a bind or I need advice or what have you, I go to her a lot of the times. But it's important to also realize, the burden that is put on the eldest daughter. It's a lot, and a lot of the times you never signed up for it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Walk me through your nursing school journey. I'm assuming pay out of pocket for school.
Mhm. Yeah, so I had a great financial aid or college and career counselor at the time I went to Aikens High School, and her name was, what was her name? I forgot her name. But Miss Simmons, she was amazing because she helped me through literally all of it. Like I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I started applying for financial aid, and she was like, you can't. And I applied for UT, I applied to Concordia. Concordia mostly just because I had heard good things, and then UT was where my mom always wanted me to go. So I was like, that's where I have to go. So I was like, I'm gonna get a full ride to college. And unfortunately for me, that did not happen. But I applied for UT, I got in, and I was so set on going to UT until I started trying to file my financial aid. And because I am not from here and I was under DACA, they were giving me out of state tuition cost, which already wasn't going to happen because I wasn't going to get loans. And I tried to figure out how to, I know there's a way for you to get in state tuition if you can prove that you've been in the state of Texas for so many years and like give them your transcripts and stuff. But I, by myself at 17, couldn't figure out how to get a hold of their financial aid department, didn't know who I was sending things to, didn't know how to get any of that paperwork. So that kind of fell through. And I like very clearly remember sitting in one of my teacher's offices and I was like devastated that I wasn't going to get to go to UT. And I'm like, I worked so hard and I got in and I can't go. And I had great teachers. So they like all really supported me. And we looked at Concordia. Concordia gave me a merit based scholarship. I was still going to have to pay like between five to $10,000 a semester out of pocket to go to Concordia. But I was like, okay, well, That's better than $25,000. So we're just going to take it and go. And you had to live on campus and all the things that you have to do with your first year. So I actually, sorry, my dog. I actually like remember I run into my Facebook posts from when I was applying for college, and I have posts from like I started a GoFundMe to try to get financial assistance to go to college. I had coworkers at I worked like 2 jobs. I had coworkers who were offering to do like a plate benefit to raise money so that I could go to college. I did as much as reaching out to one of my grandparents in Mexico that I hadn't spoke to since I was probably like 3 because he has a business out there, and I was like, I need help. Like I didn't know what to do, and like my dad being a single parent now was not in a position to help me. So I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew that it had to be done. And I unfortunately had to work like 2 to 3 jobs throughout nursing school. And I missed out on the college experience, I always say, because I didn't get to do any of the fun things. Like I was always at work, and my friends got to hang out and study and stay up all night and do their studying. And it just wasn't like that for me. Like I went to college, but I didn't get the college experience that everyone else got. Like I worked retail. I worked at Pink Victoria's Secret. I worked at a hair salon as like a front desk girl, and then I worked at like a dentist office as a front desk person. Like I was taking any and all jobs that were offered to me in order to save up that money. And I think there was like maybe 2 semesters that I really thought I was going to fall short. Was I was like, I don't know where I'm going to get this money from. And I was looking into like private loans and like trying to figure it out. And luckily, somehow I always came up with the money because if the money wasn't paid right before the semester started, I couldn't start my classes. So it was like crying, crying, and crying until I finally got it paid, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, how did I do that?" And it, like, seemed unreal a lot of the times, but I really don't know how I got there.
And it's crazy how in the moment you look back and you think, damn, I did all of that, you know?
And go to
Um,
nursing school at the same time.
well, that's the next thing I was gonna say. I can't imagine how stressed you were working 3 jobs, going to nursing school on top of that is wild.
Yeah, I think I like, the cutoff for our test was, like, higher than a 70 or whatever, and I remember on one test, I actually failed, and I think I was more frustrated because I'm like, "Okay, well, I am working. Like, I don't have 10 hours after class to study like all these people. Like, give me a break." But they don't give you
That's definitely admirable.
Thank you.
Shout out to Miss Simmons.
Yeah, she was amazing. I love
It's so important. That's why I think people in education love what they do because you remember them, right? People that actually want you to thrive and succeed. They're very memorable. But you brought up something very important, and it's the hardships. I see you as a successful RN, content creator, and I'm like, by the looks of it, it looks like it's been a walk in the park for you. Well, clearly that hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people kind of forget or don't think about are the hardships. And they think that the road to success is linear, and it's not. And especially for first gens or people of color, we have to work twice as hard. The fact that you had to work 3 jobs is mind blowing to me because nursing school is not easy.
I would never do it again.
Uh, It's funny because in the office, we were talking the other day, a while ago, and somehow we got onto that topic of would you redo nursing school? I love nursing. I love what I do. I wouldn't redo it. I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, no, me either. I'm like, I love 3 North and I love the hospital, but I couldn't tell anyone to go through nursing school. Like, it's just brutal.
But that shouldn't stop you.
Right.
Whoever's listening, 1,000,000,000%, it's worth it.
It is. I mean, I
It
worked 3 jobs to get here. Like,
Yeah.
I knew that it was what I wanted to do, and I knew that I was gonna be in the place that I wanted to be. So, I just knew that it had to be done.
What was the drive behind you wanting to go to nursing school?
I think part of it was my mom. Remembering her and, like, knowing that she would be so proud of me. I think the other part of it was my dad, like, somehow wanted to be able to help him, and thankfully, I've been in the position where I've, like, been able to help him when he needs help. And the other part of it, I think, was my brothers, like, I wanted them to see that there's better than what we grew up with. So I, like, wanted my brothers to see the drive, and I knew that it was gonna be, like, something to be proud of, and I think I've always wanted more. Like, right now, I'm training for my half marathon, and my boyfriend asked me, like, are you trying to prove something? And I'm like, I just don't want to be average. Like, I know that I'm capable of so much more that I can't settle for just being another person who just lives, you know?
And I think it's always good to have something to look forward to or have a goal. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you working for something that you want to be able to say, I accomplished that. I did that. But talking about your hardship and your struggle through nursing school, was there ever a time that you were like, all right, this is it. I'm done. I don't want to do this?
No, I think it was because I didn't give myself that option. Like, I mean, there was multiple points where I felt like I had no choice but to quit when I like wasn't going to be able to meet the financial burden that was due, but I don't think I ever chose to try to give up. Like, it was just not an option for me. Cuz I mean, I think for me it's like, well, who else do I fall back on? Like, that's another struggle that I think comes with being first gen is like if your parents aren't well enough and they didn't make their way back up to that position, like, who am I gonna fall back on? It's not like I could move back home because my brothers took over my room.
We don't have that security blanket, right? So you have no option but to keep going. And it sounds like that's what you were doing. There's this creator the other day. She was saying like phrases that the Hispanic population uses. Échale ganas.
Puede.
Like si se puede, para atrás ni para agarrar vuelo. And I think that's so embedded in our culture and our upbringing that it builds that resilience in us. And we're like, no, there's no choice. There's no plan B.
Plan
It's
A's
plan
gotta work.
A. It's to get through nursing school or law school, med school, what have you. And it's not easy because, as the cliche goes, if it were easy, everybody would do it. But when did it hit you? When did it dawn on you? Like you graduated, you got a job as a nurse.
Mhm.
Did you ever have a moment of reflection and be like, damn, that sacrifice, those 3 jobs, all that hard work I put into this, and I'm here now?
Yeah. Remember getting my offer. Actually, I was in like disbelief because I didn't want to work adults. I didn't apply to a single adult unit. I was like, I'm going to work pediatrics and I'm going to work pediatrics only. So I remember like I got my job and I like could not believe it. Like I was like, I can't believe that I'm actually going to be a nurse and I have a job. I'm actually going to be working. And the other shitty thing that I forgot to mention when I was in nursing school, 6 months before I graduated was when Trump got into office and canceled DACA. Yeah. So I remember standing in Torchies and I got the news and they were like, DACA's gonna be no longer. And I was crying in Torchies because I was like, I think it was a year before I graduated. But at that point, my DACA was gonna expire 6 months before I graduated nursing school. So I had been climbing this uphill mountain and then 6 months before I graduated nursing school, it was all gonna just be taken away. And I literally was crying in Torchies, like, it was so embarrassing, but I was like that felt like that was one of the moments where I was like, "I don't have a choice, like, I may not be able to do this." And I was just, like, in disbelief. So I think being able to finish I renewed my DACA after that because that ended up not sticking, but I renewed my DACA after that. So I think after all those like traumatic little moments, like when I had my job, I it was like in disbelief almost. Like I made it and I'm gonna be a nurse.
What a sense of relief, a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And speaking of DACA and all these hardships, what's the status now in Texas as far as DACA recipients? So I don't know if you can tell us any more about that.
So the ruling from I think it was like 2020 or something, that DACA was illegal, held up. And it looks like because Texas was the one to bring it up, Texas is going to be the only one affected. So, as far as I've heard, DACA is going to continue. DACA has been on hold since Donald Trump's last presidency. Nobody else has been able to apply. All those applications that were pending are just frozen. All those people paid all the fees and they're just sitting there waiting. And it looks like for everyone else, it's going to be great. DACA is going to continue. All those applications that are kind of sitting there are going to get processed and they may get DACA. And that's great. I'm happy for everyone else. But unfortunately for me, I live in Texas and Texas wants to take away our work permits. So I think it'll go one of two ways that I've read is they'll revoke them immediately and we'll have either 15 or 30 days to pack our shit up and go. Because if we stay, then we start accruing unlawful time. That means we're living in Texas illegally. And that can affect our chances of fixing our papers in the future. So the other way it can go is that Texas will no longer issue work permits. So after ours expires, which mine expires in October of 2026, then we'll have to move. But I think that to me, if it's going to go one of those two ways, it has to go the second option where it gives us time to figure out our life and get out of here. Because not only are we going to be affected if we have to leave within 30 days, like just my unit's going to be down 3 nurses. 2 of us are supervisors. So just my unit's going to be affected. All these people are going to leave their jobs with 2 weeks' notice. No time to train a new supervisor, no time to turn over. Like, you know how it works in the hospital. Not necessarily is it easy to hire just the next nurse who's in line. So we're going to be so understaffed until they can replace us. And that comes with meeting certain goals during each pay period. Like, it's not as easy as everyone thinks. And I'm sure that's just the same in other fields. Like, there's a person who DM'd me the other day and was like, "Hey, I'm a firefighter here in Texas. Like, any news?" And I'm like, "No, like, I don't have anything for you." Or people who are like, "Hey, like, I have kids. I'm a single mom. Like, am I going to have to pack my life up and leave in 30 days?" Like, I'm hoping not, but that's as far as we know. And the next set of news or a decision, I don't know which of the two it is, but October 27th is the date that we were given. That's kind of what we're waiting for to see what happens from there. Because these are just two options, but there could be a whole different path that they take.
I'd just like to comment that it's hard enough to find nurses, and the orientation process is so long. I
Those
can't
nurses won't
imagine.
be on orientation for 3 months.
Right. And people don't realize how this affects everyone. It's not just the DACA recipients, it's the community. I must say, I'm guilty of this because when I read that news, I texted you and I said, like, what's the option? Do you think you'll move? And after a while, I was like, that's kind of an asshole question, because people are like, oh, you can just move to another state that is renewing work permits or that is allowing DACA recipients to work. But it dawned on me that people have lives here. Their roots are here: family, community, jobs, career. In this economy, it's not easy to just get up and go.
Or break a lease.
That's like, what, $3K right there, if not more. And first and last in another state, and you're starting over from scratch, essentially. And it's just so unfair. So my question is, how do you deal with people that say, you can just move to another state?
Yeah. I try to educate people, because that to me feels the same way as like, oh, well, why don't you just get married? Because that comes with a lot more than just the simple just get married or just move. Like, people aren't thinking about, like, in the aspect of moving, like, I have to break my lease. I have to quit my job. I have to find a new job. And I have my IV, like, ambassador business thing that's going on that is strictly local. So I would have to give up on that, because how do you build clientele in another, like, state? Like, you have to start all over from there. And I, like, think about my dad. Like, I am my dad's person who helps him with literally everything. So I'm like, I won't be here to help him. Like, my boyfriend would have to quit his job. Like, it's more than just, oh, well, just move to another state. Like the marriage thing. Like, people are like, well, why don't you just get married? Well, because to me, like, and I've had this conversation with my boyfriend, to me, marriage is like, we're ready to start a life together. And I have a great relationship, but it just sucks that people think it's just like whatever. And even then, we get married, we start the process. That process is lengthy. I talked to a lawyer and they said it takes 6 months to a year. 6 months if you're lucky. A year. My dad went through it and it took him 4 years. So it's thousands and thousands of dollars of lawyer's fees, thousands of, like, hours and appointments, meeting with your lawyer. Then you have to go to the USCIS to do your interview. Like, there's so many other things that go into it. So I try to just kind of explain that. I feel like I don't really take it to heart anymore, because I feel like people just don't know. And you don't know if it comes off rude if you just don't know the situation.
And I think this is why your platform is so important, because you're so good about explaining things, advocating. I see you get a lot of hate on TikTok. The comments are just ignorant. And I love how you address them in a very factual, nice, eloquent answer. And you have to have a lot of patience for that.
There's been some that I'm like, you know what? And I, like, say something and I'll delete it. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm just angry.
Yeah, because some people just have a way of getting under your skin. I imagine some comments that you're just like, oh my gosh. But a lot of it's ignorance. A lot of it's racism.
Mhm.
It's sad to see, honestly. I want to ask you some questions about nursing and being a DACA recipient. Do you have any examples or stories of when you were like, you know what, I'm supposed to be here. I'm so glad I'm here. You speak Spanish. What does that look like for you in your career?
I don't think that I can think of a specific example, but I can tell you that daily when I walk into a room and speak Spanish, I get the gracias a Dios que hablas español, mija. Like, there's been so many people who have felt like they weren't being understood. And I've sat in a room with a translator, like playing it just because I'm helping or something. And I'm like, that's not translating exactly what they're trying to say. And I think being able to communicate, it's so frustrating, and it's very frustrating. One, because we don't get compensated for speaking Spanish, and two, because I'm doing two people's jobs. Like, I'm charge nurse, but I have to be in your patient's room doing your discharge, or I have to go into your patient's room and explain to them the plan of care. And it feels good to know that I can for the family, but I think when it comes to like being taken advantage of, that's where it sucks. But I think the daily, like, "Oh my gosh, thank God that you speak Spanish," and then they start telling you, like, all the issues that they've had. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, these parents would have just never said anything, and this issue would have never been addressed, or they would have gone home and they wouldn't understood any of their discharge instructions, and they would have came right back with an infection or something," you know? Like, I think things like that make me realize, like, I love being able to speak Spanish and being able to be that person for those families that feel like they're just there and don't necessarily, like, they aren't being heard.
And again, this is why representation matters, because it's good outcomes for everyone. Good outcomes for the patients, for the hospital. They don't have to worry about readmission
Readmission.
rates. And it's just good all around. It builds that sense of trust that we've talked
Mhm.
about. It's always nice to hear like you said, ay, qué
Yeah.
bueno que hablas español. There's been instances where you tell parents like, oh, this is the antibiotic for the infection. And, oh, I didn't know they were getting antibiotics, or I didn't know where the infection was, or what have you. This is why it's important. This is probably where you're like, all right, this is why I do what I do. And those are the stories that make it all worth it.
Mhm.
And that just make, this country better, because given today's political climate, all of that aside, I do believe that this is a land of opportunity.
I
And
agree.
I say that because my parents came here with nothing, and they created their American dream. They bought a home, they raised us here, and they have done more than what they would have done back
Mhm.
in Mexico, right? So it just makes us the country. It just makes us better.
Mhm.
And that is such a human connection. That's one of the most special things about nursing, is that you meet complete strangers during their most vulnerable time,
Yeah.
and you're able to create these connections. It doesn't matter who they are or where they come from. That's part of the essence of nursing.
And I think I look at all these immigration issues with the same lens. Like, at the end of the day, we are all human. And you and I are two totally different people, but we're still people. Like, I tell this to everyone about like me and my boyfriend. Like, we grew up the same, but he was lucky enough to be born in the US, whereas I wasn't. And everyone has maybe the same opportunities, but I have to work harder. And people in my comments will say, like, well, you took the spot of a US citizen, or you should have waited and came in the right way. And I'm like, okay, first of all, like, I was 2 years old when I came here. And yes, I can take it up with my parents, but you guys, like, people on the other side of the screen don't know what people are running from. You don't know what people's situations are. And at the end of the day, they are people who needed care that we were providing, and needed food, and they have a right to feel safe. And it just is so crazy to me that people think that way. Like, that's the basis of all political issues. I'm like, everyone's a person. Everyone deserves to be happy, to be healthy, to be cared for. Like, I don't care who you are, what you look like, where you come from. Like, you and I are still people.
I'm a firm believer that we're all related and we all have a lot of things in common.
Hmm.
You just said something about people in your comments saying you took the spot of a US citizen. I think it's important to highlight that your nursing degree wasn't just handed to you. Your passing test scores weren't rigged, weren't made in your favor. People need to realize that institutions and systems were not built for people like us.
That and, like, after we've talked about all the things I've been through, I'm like, all the odds were against me. So if I earned that spot over a citizen who had the financial aid, didn't have to work, like, had all the things stacked in their favor, then who are you going to tell me that I didn't deserve it? Like, if they couldn't get there with all the opportunities they had, then that's not on me, that's on them.
It's important because you have every opportunity. And honestly, that's what's great about this country is that you can do whatever the F you want. And like you said, the odds are stacked against you and so many others like us that are first gen or that are dreamers. And I think that's the beautiful part of our heritage, our culture, our ancestry is that we've had to be resilient for years. And it's that resilience that makes us go through with whatever we want to accomplish. So when people say you took the spot of a US citizen or you should have came in legally, people don't understand that you were 2 years old. A lot of these dreamers had no jurisdiction over what they did.
Always like to be a smartass and be like, I did come in legally because I did. The problem is I just overstayed my visa and there was no other option for me to adjust. So it's like, what was I supposed to?
I wish people would look at it through that lens of you were just a kid. What say did you have? You had no say, you know? And the other thing about the visa part is that people think that, well, everybody's coming through the border, everybody's coming illegally that way. And the reality is a lot of people come and overstay their visas. So when they talk about, oh, you should have came in the right way, nobody came into this country the right way going back to Columbus days. This is a land of immigrants. I wish people would just look at it through that lens of you guys had no say in all of this.
I think they also just don't necessarily understand their own immigration system. Like another one of the big comments I get is like, well, why haven't you done anything about it in 25 years? And I always ask, I'm like, what do you suggest would have done? They're like, well, apply for your citizenship. And I'm like, and how do you suggest to do that? How? Like, talk me through it. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. You should have investigated it. And I'm like, well, I have. That's the problem. That I have investigated and I've lined out all my options and there are none for me to take. So
People don't realize how messy the US immigration system is and how lengthy. The amount of time to get approved or applications to go through
right.
is wild. It's crazy. Have you thought about doing anything like, I hate to say self-deporting or starting a life in Mexico, a country that you've never lived in or probably don't have any memories of?
No. I mean, I think it's in the back of my head as like a last resort, but I I think I would struggle more there than I would here. Like I said this in another interview this morning, like I feel like I am more American than I am Mexican in every way except for paper. Because I would probably have the biggest culture shock in Mexico because things are so different. And I've been raised American. Like I only know all the culture of here and the hints of Mexican culture that my family has taught me and that I've seen here and there. But like I think there's two different lives. And I think, again, going back to like how it went in nursing school, like I'm going to do everything I possibly can so that I don't have to go back to Mexico without wanting to. Like, it's not that I don't want to go to Mexico because obviously I would love to know where I'm from. I think it's just, I don't want to be forced to go, you know?
And I think it's important to make that point of it's not that you don't want to go back or, but this is all you know. And how is it okay for someone to say, all right, you got to go back to a place that
You don't know.
you don't know? That's so unfair. If there's anyone listening out there that is a DACA recipient or anybody who's going through trials and tribulations as far as, you know, going to school to be X, Y, and Z, what advice do you have for them?
I think we've already made it this far. I feel like we've already gone through so much and we don't know anything different but to keep going. So I think my biggest advice is just keep going. And I mean, if the best fit for your life is to self deport, then that's okay too, you know, because like some people say to my comments, our parents came with nothing and they figured it out. So I'm sure we could do the same in reverse. Like we could go to Mexico and start a whole new life. And we've already made something work with all the odds stacked against us here. So I'm sure we could do it in Mexico. But it's kind of like just assess your situation, do what feels right for you, but be smart about it too. Like keep going and know what your options are.
And I think a community is important. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I've gotten from my social media, that there are so many people who like share the same experiences and share the same concerns. And just knowing that we're not alone. And there's so many of us. I think there's like 800 to 900,000 DACA recipients just in Texas. So I think we have more power than we want to realize, because that, even just economically, would be tragic for Texas, you know?
And that's, another thing too is, everyone is entitled to their own opinion and to do what's best for them. If
Hmm.
self-deporting is a thing, then yeah, that's okay too. We're going to make it work in the end either way.
Yeah.
If anything, that's what's embedded in our culture and our blood and our genes is we're going to find a way. And that goes for anything. At the end of the day, it's going to be okay. We just have to get through these hurdles and it's going to be fine. How do your siblings see you, and what are their goals slash plans as far as like do they see you like as an example, or what's that like?
I think they do see me as an example, but I think there was two different pathways for us when we lost our mom. And I think I took the, like, you got to just keep going and get it done. And they kind of fell into the hardship that it's losing a parent. And both of them graduated high school, but neither of them went to college. And that's okay, because I tell them there's like a million things you can do even if you don't go to college. But I think, again, they have a little bit of a safety blanket that comes with not being first gen. Like, if all else fails, like, they live at home with my dad, and they've relied on me a lot. So they also have me. And I think they do admire what I do, but I think they were too young to know exactly what I was going through. And I don't know that they know all of these things that I had to do to get through nursing school, because I think I almost wanted to protect them from knowing how badly we were struggling as a family. So I don't know that they fully understand how difficult it was.
That's very powerful. They were young when your mom passed away, so that's traumatic in itself. And
Then
and it's okay if they don't know what they want to do right now, or they don't have it figured out. A lot of younger people are pressured to immediately go to school, and a lot of the times like we don't know what we want to do when we grow up. So, I always say like, okay, give it some thought, give it some time, do odd jobs or find yourself basically, but
figure out what you
do
like.
something. Whether it be a trade, a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, I think it's important to let our parents know that their sacrifice was worth it. But there's the other school of thought too that's like, well, I didn't ask my parents to leave or come to this country.
I hate that mindset.
And it's one of those that you're like, all right, well, it's valid and that's okay, right? But it's just one of those things that a lot of us, I think, are like, okay, I want to show my parents that their sacrifice was worth it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's important too for this generation.
And I think what I've learned a lot is your life is going to be what you make out of it here. So if you want to make it successful, then you're going to be successful, because something's going to work. And if you just give up and let it be what it is, then that's just what it's going to be, Like, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't try. I'm wearing 50 different hats.
You have to try. And that goes for anything. And that's the gist of the podcast, is that the road to success isn't linear. There's going to be
Hmm.
hardships. There's going to be roadblocks, especially if you're first gen or a person of color. It's going to be hard. But
Hmm.
I do believe we all have that resilience built in us to be able to get through it. Do you have any issues like juggling both identities? And when I say both identities, I mean American, but also being Mexican.
Yes. I think that it gets tricky. I think mostly for like social media, because a lot of people say that you have to give up your Mexican pride in order to be worthy of being American. And I don't think that's true. Like, that's crazy to me. I think it it's very difficult right now. I think because I want to be proud of being Mexican, and I want to be proud of like speaking about stuff like this. But with the political climate, it like definitely feels like I should be in hiding. And then you almost want to, like, it's hard to be a proud American when you're not American. Like, it's proud to be a proud American when I'm not from here. It's proud to be a proud American right now with this
climate that we have going on. Like, so I find myself trying to figure out if I'm a proud or a proud American half the time. Like, it's just so hard. I'm thankful for the opportunities that America has given me and the life that I have built here. And I do feel like I belong here and I feel like I'm happy here and I feel like this is my home, but I feel very unwelcome sometimes too. So I think I cling to my Mexican home in that sense because I feel like maybe if I'm not welcome here, I'll be welcome there.
And it's important, given this political climate, that we don't lose root of that, which sadly a lot of Latinos and, Hispanics have lost sight of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on the oppressing side, sadly, for whatever reason, for whatever experience that they might have gone through, or they want to feel accepted.
Mm.
Unless your skin tone changes, I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, prime example is the Super Bowl. Like, Bad Bunny's American, Puerto Rico, but he brown and he sings in Spanish.
And the thing is, he's not even that brown.
No.
He's like güerito.
Yeah.
I saw this video the other day. It said it was, geared toward the people who have lost sense of their identity and their roots. And he was saying something along the lines of like, Bad Bunny's rich. He has a following. He's famous. He's American, and they still don't want him.
You think
He's
they
like,
want you?
He's like, what makes you think they're going to want you? The other thing I wanted to mention too was it's like you're living in this golden cage in the US. Sometimes I think people, maybe dreamers or any of us, are like, is it really worth it in the end?
I mean, figuratively and literally, like, it's a golden cage because I can't visit any other country except the US under DACA either. So I've never been able to leave. And if I do, then I can't come back.
Los Tigres del Norte were right in their song, La Jaula de Oro. And it's the plight of a lot of immigrants and first gens, wherever you come from. In closing, Valeria, I want to ask you, what advice do you have to people who are listening, right? Given your background as a dreamer, a registered nurse, a fitness enthusiast, content creator, what's your takeaway from this talk that you want them to go away with?
To remember that we are all alike and we are all contributing to the American dream. And we have embedded ourselves in this community as much as anyone else. We are nurses, doctors, housekeepers, construction workers. Like, we give back to this community in a way because we love it. So we are no different than anyone else. And this is our home just as much as it is anyone else's.
And we're here to stay.
Right.
We're not going anywhere.
There's Mexicans who are citizens, so we are not going anywhere.
That's right. Thank you for coming on the podcast, for being our first guest from the restart of the podcast. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your efforts in being an advocate. Thanks for your bravery, especially in this time, to be a voice for all the DACA recipients. You remind us that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about hope. It's about believing in a future, even when the systems tells you not to. That is the biggest takeaway that I hope people get from our conversation. This is Bridging Cultures, a first generation experience. I'm your host, Edgar Arellano, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.